Now we have the Commanders versus the Eagles after the Eagles beat the Rams 28-22. And Kaz, we talked about this over text, but I figure I'll bring it to the pod just for everyone else to hear your explanation. But all week going into this game, it was, Matthew Stafford is 1-8 in snow games. This is going to benefit the Eagles. They're playing on their home turf. They know what it's like to play in the snow. Matthew Stafford played in a dome in Detroit for so many years, and then he goes to LA, and that's technically an outdoor stadium, but it's in LA, and he had hardly any experience, and the experience he did was very poor. 1 win in 9 games. And ultimately, something that you and Kevin were both saying is that the snow actually benefited the Rams as the Rams go on to win this game, the Rams go on to lose this game by 6 points. And so just what did you think overall about your Eagles advancing to another NFC Championship game? But if you could explain to the audience just how the snow actually benefited the team from California.
I mean, I had a couple friends in the game, so they were kind of telling me, some inside stuff. But snow, I mean, it's a variable, man. Like, it's not like the Eagles play in snow, 17, 18 weeks out of the season. You know what I'm saying? We don't play in snow either. So it's not – cold has nothing to do with it. And it was cold there. It was definitely cold, but that has nothing to do with it. It's not like they're Miami where it's like – Tua is notoriously bad for playing in the cold. Stafford has won games in the cold. Okay, he's been in the league for a million years. He's played cold games. I don't think that he's just absolutely terrible. Now, whether they win or not, that's a different thing. But are we going to sit there and say that without me even looking? Again, you guys can fact check me if you want. But without me even looking, I'm pretty sure if you were to pull up some of his coldest games he's played, he probably still has decent stats. I don't recall Stafford ever just having he's just terrible. He's putting up 120 yards, throwing 4 picks. No. It's not Stafford. It's never been Stafford his whole career. So the snow, it's just like the slippery field in Brazil and the slippery field in the Super Bowl. Both teams got to play on it. Okay? Both teams got to play on it. But when it comes to the game overall, like offensively, who's got the better offense? Is it the Rams or the Eagles? Well, you can kind of argue. Well, Stafford, he's a better quarterback, I would say, through the air for sure, than Jalen Hurts. He puts up a lot of yards per game. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's got some studs there. Puka Nacua is no joke. He had a solid game. Cooper Kupp, veteran, won the Triple Crown just 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And then you have Kyren Williams in the backfield, which that's a good running back. Everybody knows in the snow it's usually a running game. You guys think that Kyren Williams was just going to not be good, only Saquon's going to be good. No, that just comes to show how much better guys like Saquon is in comparison to guys like Kyren Williams. Yes, I get it. We have an amazing offensive line. But again, Jared Verse, he had an amazing game. He had 2 sacks, 2 QB hits. He had I think 5 solo tackles. I mean, he had a baller-ass game. So it's not like guys on the Rams weren't playing well. There's guys Stafford had a good game. He had a solid game. Said he was throwing the ball everywhere because they were trying to compare him and Hurts' stats, saying, look, Hurts sucks. Stafford doesn't have a problem with it. Stafford's in the snow. He lives in LA. They don't ever get no snow. But look, he has no problem throwing the ball. Okay, I get it. He's definitely a better passer than Hurts. I can say that openly and honestly and not really care. I think that Hurts has his moments, but at the end of the day, every quarterback has certain tangibles that make them who they are. It's not a big fucking deal. All right, it really isn't. So when it comes to the game, it was a game that when I was watching with my friends, I was like, this game should be 40-10. We're not capitalizing when on these drives where Jake Elliott, saved us. I think he made 3 field goals, which was surprising. But it's you just see how the snow even affected Hurts. He's out there scrambling, and then he's just sliding down like he always does, and it pisses me off every time. But that's just what he does. It was just a sloppy game. You know what I mean? All around was a sloppy game. There's guys, defenders slipping and falling. There's film out there everywhere, all over Twitter, saying if Jalen Carter didn't get that final sack, to seal the game, there was a tight end that was wide open because one of our defenders fell, and we were up 6 points. That would have been a game winning score. We would have got the ball with maybe I don't know, not a lot of time left, under a minute for sure. So everybody was everywhere, and that's what my friends were saying. That were texting me like, "Yo, like there's guys slipping every play. You just can't see it on the TV on the television. It's different. You only see like the the hyper focused offensive line and where the ball's at. Because like, no, guys are slipping and falling everywhere. But you're in Philadelphia. That place is an extremely hard place. I don't know why people don't talk about that more. You hear about the 12th man. You hear about Arrowhead. You hear about all these. Do you guys understand how hard it is to play in Philadelphia? Like Jared Verse was getting snowballs thrown at him while he was leaving the stadium. Like he was getting talked to the entire time on the sideline by the fans. It was nonstop, all 4 quarters. Okay. It's a very hard place to play. And a lot of hiccups. There were a lot of hiccups. You had Isaiah Rodgers, Matthew Stafford aired it out, interception, but somehow somebody, Demarcus Robinson, got it out of his hands.
Stole it from him.
Yeah, it's like, how often does that happen, guys? That's either going to be incompletion or it's going to be a pick. It was right in his hands. So it's like, and then who's Demarcus Robinson? Like, come on. So it's like he's making plays like that. He's stepping up big. You got Pook. I mean, Quinion Mitchell went out the game. He was out in the first quarter. But luckily, we were so deep, putting in Isaiah Rodgers, people forget that was a starting cornerback before he got suspended for a year. We picked him up for cheap because he was suspended, and he just sat there. And then we happened to draft Quinion. We didn't know that, and Cooper DeJean. And while he was going through his suspension or whatever, like he ended up hurting his hand in the preseason, so therefore he was already out before the season even started. We didn't know Quinion was going to turn into what he turned into, because if he didn't hurt his hand in the preseason, Quinion is nickel. We don't even see DeJean at all. He might be a safety, and Rodgers would have been the CB2 with Slay at CB1. So like, it's not like he's just nobody. This is a guy who would start on a lot of teams right now. So just a lot happened that game. But we have a Saquon, and what do you do? What can you do? We should literally ride Saquon's heels all the way to a Super Bowl championship. I get it. We'll probably see the Rams if we win. How do you stop a guy who puts up at will 200 yards rushing a game? How do you? I mean, I want to know. I bet there's a stat out there that when a rusher goes for over, we even see like 175, how often that team wins. I bet the probability is very, very high. I guarantee it's very high, because one, that's clock management, unless it's just walk off, TD runs, which Saquon does have those. I think he had 2 over 60 last night. But unless it's that, but no, he had like 20. He had like 29 carries, I believe. 20. He was up there in carries, 28, 29 carries, somewhere around there. And it's like, if you're not stopping Saquon, you're not stopping the run game. And our defense is playing the way our defense is playing. We're constantly under pressuring Matthew Stafford. We're hitting guys. Dude, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, every week he's getting just a big ass hit. This Eagles defense is way too physical. I love this offense, and I get it. I want my guys like AJ Brown and Smitty to eat, but now I don't care. This is Jalen Hurts throw for 100 yards. I even tweeted. I said, "Here's my prediction," and my last bullet point was, "I already know Jalen Hurts is going to piss me off. Protect the ball." If that's how we have to win, I don't give a shit, because this defense is fun to watch, very fun to watch. So even though some people don't like to watch dominant teams, this year I do, because our defense is very fun to watch. Guys are getting hit. There's a lot of sacks. There's a lot of QB pressures. There's some amazing plays. And these guys are just having fun. So LA, they think they came in. Todd, you would know what their line was. They were underdogs, like 5.5, 6-point underdogs?
It closed at 7.
Yeah. So I mean, come on. Like, they had a moment, a little scared, where they almost took Jalen Hurts out, rolled on his knee, and he had to go to the blue tent. Outside of that, I'm like, this game should be like put away very soon. We just got to get in the fucking end zone. And instead, we're kicking field goals when we need to get in the end zone. We're getting good field advantage, and we need to get in the end zone, and we're just not. So that red zone offense is definitely a problem. I'm going to blame the snow a little bit, but we need to score. And by any means necessary, Saquon Barkley, when in doubt, just give him the ball. Just give him the ball. It's very, very simple. We have the best offensive line of football. We have the best running back in probably the last since AP. I would put Saquon even over Henry, and I'll explain why very briefly. When it comes to being a running back, I'm taking a guy like Saquon. If you were to take Saquon's film and Derrick Henry's film, all the best runs in their career, right? Make them to where you could not see like what team they played for, who they were. They're just a gray clay animation. And you watch. I'm 100% taking Saquon Barkley after seeing what he does with the ball versus over Derrick Henry. And it's not just because of this season. He's been this way since Penn State. He was drafted. He was being compared to Barry Sanders. He's been like the only running back I think that's ever been compared to Barry Sanders. And they weren't joking. They were showing some of the stuff Sanders did and some of the stuff that Saquon did. Kind of the same way that they were doing with the Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan when they had like those comparisons like, yo, Kobe definitely studied Michael's game. He's doing the exact moves Michael Jordan did. You look at Saquon Barkley and it's like, you're just a bigger, as fast, if not faster, stronger Barry Sanders. We have that on our team behind the best offensive line of football. The win was expected. And that's another reason why we're not losing to the Commanders next week. We would have to literally shoot ourselves in the foot. The game, I already looked it up, the game that we lost to the Commanders, first off, we lost by 3. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. You guys think that they're going to be able just to keep doing that? I get it. They have Jaden Daniels. He's amazing. Scary Terry. But again, the Lions defense is far inferior to the Eagles defense. And you're in Philadelphia. You're walking into hell. That's all I'm going to say. You're literally walking into hell. And all of our guys are 110% healthy. That's the way I see it, man. So I'm just not expected. Or I did expect to win, and I was dead serious, even up to the end of the game where they almost came back. It got a little nervous. But I'm like, you understand, they only got the ball back because he scored so damn quick. We just scored a big-ass run by Saquon, and then Stafford went down the field immediately and scored. I'm like, damn. Now if we don't convert on this next drive, which is possible, we got to punt, they get the ball, and they get one last shot. So, again, coaching wasn't the best. There's some questionable things that happened at the end of the first half there. Sirianni had a chance to get in field goal range. He decided to let the clock run out. Don't know what's going on there. A lot of hiccups on the Eagles' end, and that's all telling. So, not surprised, and I was honestly comfortable that entire game. It was up till the very, very end where I was like, even if they score, I'm like, somehow, some way, we're gonna get downfield and just kick a 60-yarder, and Jake Elliott will be the unsung hero again.
Well, I think you summed it up perfectly when you said during your response, we have a Saquon, we being the Eagles, because the Eagles have Saquon, everyone else doesn't, including the New York Giants, who are just so stupid for letting him go. And when you were talking about the comparison between Saquon and Derrick Henry, I feel like this weekend's games was the only sample size I needed to side with Saquon. Because simply put, like Derrick Henry, when it comes to just being a bruising running back, he's one of the best, if not the best, that we've seen since all of the talented running backs from the 2000s and the 90s and the 80s. But Derrick Henry's weakness is he doesn't consistently catch the ball out of the backfield. We even saw him have a couple drops in the game that we're going to get to next with the Bills and the Ravens. And Saquon is very reliable in that sense. And in today's game, that's a difference maker right there. And so I would side with you on that as well, Kaz. But Jaevon, obviously for you and I as 49ers fans, this was bittersweet. This was one of those games where it's like, can both teams lose? Like, that'd be great. I was rooting for the Rams, and like my stomach was turning every time I thought about rooting for the Rams. And as I told the backstory last week on the episode, I was rooting for the Rams because of my friend Eric, who passed away, who was a Rams fan. And I was ultimately pulling for them to win it all. That came to an end. And but still, it was hard for me to stomach even thinking about rooting for the Rams, as much as I was trying. But as I said, for us as 49ers fans, we didn't want either team to win. So how did you feel about this one overall?
Yeah, this game was I thought the Eagles came out kind of, flexing their muscles a little bit, but the Rams were kind of just fighting back a lot. And I thought they were getting Tyler Higbee heavily involved. Obviously Puka Nacua was making plays. The run game was working with Kyron Williams, early on. I thought that they were running the ball well until he obviously had the fumble at the end. Saquon Barkley is really good at football. I think the NFL, and for the Giants just gifting him and just letting him walk to Philly was just criminal and abysmal. at the same time. I mean, he's just like Kaz already mentioned. He's like at will getting 200 yards, and these are playoff games that he's putting these numbers up in. We didn't really see too much of AJ Brown. I think teams are starting to key in on him a little bit. I think Devontae Smith needs to get the ball more, and when he gets the ball in space, I think things can happen. Same thing with AJ Brown, but I just think teams are starting to key in on AJ a little bit more.
AJ got his opportunities. He was dropping balls.
He
shut up. He can shut up.
He was definitely dropping balls.
Yeah,
I like his Honda. I like his Honda though.
His Honda was cool, but he was dropping balls. That's on him.
Jalen Hurts was immobilized, I think, towards the end of the game when he did get hurt. And you could kind of see it, the way that he was walking. Kevin will deny this and say it was because of the snow. I think it was because his knee got bent backwards. And even after the game, he said, we'll see how the week goes, and we'll just take it from there. But I do think Jalen Hurts was a little bit uncomfortable towards the end of the game. And the way that Kellen Moore was calling plays for him, you could tell that he wasn't really able to move around in the pocket versus just sitting there and handing it to Saquon. The Rams started to key in on that and just started to load the box up and say, hey, Jalen, why don't you try and move around like you were literally when they started the game out. He had a 40-something yard rushing touchdown. I just think moving forward, they're going to need Jalen Hurts to be what we saw in that first half, him moving around, rushing for touchdowns, things of that nature, mixed in with Saquon, doing what he does best and just breaking off 60-yard touchdown passes. And then when teams want to try and load the box up, that's when you hit AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, those guys over the top. So the Rams definitely had a chance to win this game. Jared Verse, the rookie for the Rams, was a man amongst boys. I don't think Kaz really mentioned Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is a monster in his own right. I think he definitely had a game-saving sack because Tyler Higbee was wide open in the back of the end zone. But Carter ended up getting the sack on on Stafford. And the fourth down call was very questionable because I thought Puka had a step on whoever who was guarding him, but Stafford kind of airmails it and kind of throws it out of bounds. So the Rams definitely had an opportunity to win this game. I just think it was a little bit too little too late for them. But at the same time, I think the Eagles should have won this game. Like Kaz was saying, the game should have been 40-10. I don't know if it should have been that, but they should have won comfortably. And you kind of just see the Eagles just letting teams hang around a little bit. That can get concerning. You got a young guy in Jaden Daniels coming into town next week, who's no stranger to Philadelphia. This will be their third time playing. It's going to be, you're just going to have to account for him at literally at all times. We saw that when Quinyon Mitchell went into when he went out in this game, you immediately saw the Rams start picking on Rodgers. That pass down the sideline to Puka Nacua, guess who that was on? Mr. Rodgers. And it was getting you were holding your breath a little bit, are the Rams they're down 6. So are the Rams gonna come back and make something happen? Jake Elliott, it's alarming. As Kaz shows a picture of, I believe that's Jalen Carter. Yeah, he's
Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter tried to bet his bonus check on this game with Verse.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's crazy. That's a good little wrinkle there. I don't know if he took the bet, but
no, he declined.
It literally came down to Jalen Carter making that game-saving sack. I think McVay was trying to expose the matchup that they had on the outside when Quinyon Mitchell went out, and they just started attacking Rodgers literally every chance that they got. So the Rams were another team that was kind of like they were going to trade Puka, they were going to trade Cooper Kupp, they were looking at blowing up the roster, but they kind of just went on a run and ended up winning the division. So hats off to the Rams, good season. The Eagles are going to have their hands full next week with Jaden Daniels coming to town.
It'll be a great game, but the best game from this past weekend was the Bills defeating the Ravens 27-25. And it was very unfortunate for Mark Andrews because he will get all the blame for his 2-point conversion drop late in this game that could have gone into overtime. Instead, now Andrews is going to hear about it all offseason for the drop. And this game seems like it was for the MVP. That's what everyone was adding on top of it going into it between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And Josh Allen ultimately prevailed in this one, and the Bills got their revenge against the Ravens, who absolutely dog-walked them week 4 of this season. And so it was a great game, as we expected. But Kaz, what did you think of the game of the weekend between the Bills and the Ravens?
Unfortunate, man. Unfortunate. One, even though Saquon